Tell us when you're ready. Oh. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to open the meeting, please.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Do you have an agenda for the meeting?
Chris is
making
awesome.
copies
Right now.
Awesome.
And there's a packet that...
He's using Jeff's packet to make the
So,
copies.
so we can start with, we're going to approve the agenda, but we could start off with public input while we're waiting. Does anyone have any comments?
There's a packet.
I may have a couple of questions, but I would rather hear what you have to
Did you get
say.
it back?
Reserve the right to ask a question if something you say doesn't cover what you're talking about.
That's fine.
Okay, because I don't know where you're at, and I assume we'll be getting some sort of an update or something. Stuff tonight, right?
Potentially.
Vote special meeting. What is the special meeting for? Since I can't see the agenda.
Sure. It was originally for items pertaining to the municipal center, but we're not going to be able to do all the items that we had originally anticipated.
So that you can feel free to speak at any time about issues concerning the municipal center that you have comments on.
All right, because I want to ask a question on something that you're going to talk about.
We had hoped that we would have some documents that were ready to be voted on today, but the executive committee still had some additional questions that we're going over, so we were not able to present them today. It was a little bit of a...
It was stuff we were going to vote on tonight.
Yeah, we had hoped to. That was the
Now you
plan.
have to vote on it next week.
That's the plan, yep.
And that would be after the village votes their meeting, and then you would have a joint vote at the same.
We have right now presently a scheduled joint meeting on the 21st, which is also a presentation for the joint municipal center as well.
Right, earlier, but I'm saying, when you have your meeting as a town, it's a joint meeting, but you'll be doing a separate meeting like afterwards or before, or just one? Like, when you do the village.
Sure, I mean, right now, the plans are to have a joint meeting, and if the town had specific town-only items to act on, we would do that, which is generally what we do when we host a
Right, you
joint
have to
meeting.
act on them separate.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wasn't clear about. So is the village joint meeting first, and then the town meeting, vice versa?
I believe the way we had it scheduled was to do the presentation first, followed by the joint meeting. So we're going to do a presentation on the joint municipal center. Yes.
At 6 o'clock.
And then we're going to go into the regular meeting.
And then when are you going to have the, when are you going to have the town?
It's on the website. I'm sorry, what?
And then the town only meeting on that day?
Generally, what we do with all joint meetings is that after we do the village of both the town, or the business of both the town and village, then we continue with just town items if we have town items at that point.
One more clarification.
Sure.
So, since you're not going to be able to vote on things tonight,
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a joint meeting, things that would be a town vote, you'd have to do after the joint meeting, as the town part of the meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, if we wanted to act at that meeting, or if
you
we
wanted to act,
if we
yeah.
wanted to, we could call an additional special meeting if we felt that that was necessary.
It's not to keep up the schedule.
Yeah.
This is not a usual day either.
Yeah, absolutely. Good? Okay, so you'll come for public comment? Do you mind using the mic just for the camera?
Hi, my name is Miriam Strauss. I'm part of the Paltz Climate Action Coalition, and I think that you have something in your packets from the Climate Action Coalition that refers to Pilgrim pipelines. So sort of like what you just said. I don't want to repeat things if you're going to bring them up in discussion, but I very much hope that you will take strong action to address the concerns of whether it's a sort of fox in the henhouse scenario if the Thruway Authority is participating in the environmental review of the proposed pipeline project.
So just so you know, we are going to have a letter that we're going to potentially vote on today. I spoke with Council Member Jan Metzger and Rosendale, who I know you're very familiar with. So we've collaborated on that, and we do have something for today.
Okay, excellent. And I don't know if you know, but last night the town of Cornwall made a very strong statement.
Mm-hmm.
addressing the same issue.
Okay.
And perhaps, I don't know if you'd like to come up and address that? Sure. Yeah.
And we have your letter in the packet
Thank you.
for the board.
David, I was told that for your meeting on the 21st, or whenever you're going to discuss arrangements that you're going to vote on the 21st, that they become public documents so that the town residents can have and should know where they are available, so that they have a chance before that date to study them and prepare any questions and comments. I don't think that you should present anything at a joint meeting and vote on it that's this important without having the community fully informed and have an opportunity to read it and be in a position to make comments that are germane. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
I agree. Yes, please.
So, thank you. My name is Iris Marie Bloom, and I'm a member of New Paltz Climate Action Coalition, and I also represent the Coalition Against Pilgrim Pipelines, New York. So we've been working with over 29 towns, cities, villages, and counties that have been pushing back to stop Pilgrim Pipelines from ever existing, but also specifically to do, as New Paltz has done in December, to push back against the Thruway Authority, which would benefit financially if it allowed the Pilgrim Pipelines to use its right-of-way to be in the position of doing the environmental review. So I want to thank the town of New Paltz for passing the resolution opposing Pilgrim Pipelines to begin with in 2015, then for taking the very strong stand to be lead agency, to offer to be lead agency for that environmental review, which shows tremendous integrity and strength. And just encourage you today to approve the letter, which does two things. It asks the commissioner of the DEC to resolve the dispute that's already been raised, and it specifically asks DEC to resolve that dispute by removing the Thruway Authority from its inappropriate role as co-lead agency. So as you know, 29 towns, cities, villages, counties took action in the last 30-day round. Then December 21st kicked off another 30-day round, and so for Kingston, Rosendale, Albany actually issued a proclamation, and Cornwall took a stand last night. But we are looking for strong leadership from New Paltz on pushing back against the Thruway Authority and against Pilgrim Pipelines tonight. And thank you so much for what you've done already.
Thanks. Okay, if that's all the comment, no more comments? Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
I would just ask that because we have an interview as well, if we just would put that to the beginning so we're not having someone sit and wait, but otherwise.
Okay, let's, we're going to move it around a little bit, and we're going to interview an intern for the recycling program.
So
You would,
I'll move the agenda.
do I have a motion to
I
move
would-
the agenda? Second?
If it's in second for discussion, I would like to add discussion of planning board recusal of a member.
Sure.
So do we have a motion to reorganize the agenda and to interview? Do
We have a motion and a second.
I have a second?
Mhm.
Is there a prepay in here?
Yep.
Authorized prepay, I added at the very last.
Yes, we have that on the agenda.
Oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So would you like to come up to the mic and we'll,
Or generally we don't do like
executive session?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do it in executive session. We'll be right back.
so we have to make a motion for executive.
Can I have a motion for executive session?
So moved
Well, what's it for?
To
to do an
interview.
interview.
For what position, for what?
It's a part-time intern position.
Recycling program. It's on the agenda.
Do we have the person's, anything on them? Do we have
She's going to join us in executive session.
but we don't have any type of resume, we don't have anything on her? or we don't have, I don't have anything in my packet. I don't have a resume, I don't have any, I mean, I'm happy to do it, but I don't have anything on it. I have no resume, I don't know who it is, I don't know what we're
Okay,
doing.
well, we can talk
I
about it
didn't
in executive session.
Well, no, just adding someone to a recycling program as an intern is not an executive session. The interview potentially could be an executive session. Adding an intern to a recycling program would not be an executive session discussion.
Sure, but discussing the applicant.
Well, okay, that's what
and
we're
doing the
discussing
interview.
right now. I don't have any information on the applicant. None of us know who the applicant is. We don't have any
Which is why
resume.
you could just
or-
go to executive session and interview the applicant, which is generally what we do.
No, generally what we do is we have the resumes ahead of time. We've always been forwarded the resumes in the past. We know who it is and we know what the position is. This is the first I've become aware of this. I didn't even know we had a position for an intern. I don't know what they would be doing. I don't even know who the applicant is. So, no, this is not how we normally do it. I don't agree.
We did have another intern that the position finished on December 31st.
And we had our resumes on them, and we knew who the person was prior to the meeting. And I don't mind doing it, I don't know who it is, I don't have a resume on the individual. I have no problem with it, Laura. If we're gonna go in executive session, though, I would also like to modify it that we invite Laura to come with us.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. We'll be right back. We come out of executive session?
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So could I ask for a motion to, concerning the intern for the recycling program?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept could you give us her full name, Laura?
Amy Bloomfield?
Amy, that we assign Amy Bloomfield as the
Part-time seasonal intern.
intern for the recycling program, working 1 day a week for,
June 30th.
till June 30th.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Okay.
So how about we move on to set the date of the fireworks, since that should be relatively straightforward? Can I have a motion to set the date for the town fireworks on July 2nd, 2016?
So moved.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Saturday.
It's
Do we
usually
know of
Saturday.
anyone else around who's having it on that same day?
Can I just give you some information that might be helpful?
Go for
As
it.
I've produced the fireworks for many years.
Sure.
Mhm. Saturday.
That would be the most expensive weekend to run the fireworks, in terms of getting vendors to come out and that. The 4th of July weekend, we were around that weekend. You have a fireworks vendor now you're using, so as long as they'll go with it. But certain other vendors are committed. If you're trying to get a lot of vendors, I mean, I don't know what you have in mind, but that's the most used weekend of getting people to do stuff. And I found that if we did it like, the 4th is what, on Monday, Sunday?
Monday.
It's a
Yeah,
month.
so if you possibly did it, let's say, the weekend after, even though it's not the 4th of July, you might have an easier time putting it together. I'm not saying you will, but I just want you to think about it. And if you want more information, I'll give it to you at a later date.
So, do you want to make a motion to postpone, or do you want to have
You
discussion?
just don't have that.
I think we should post, and just so you know, Neil is in the past too, because I've worked both with Josh on this and worked with Carol on it. one of the biggest expenses, the actual fireworks themselves, and probably getting them on that Saturday. I don't know, Josh, the premium's gonna be what?
I don't know, because.
It's gonna be pretty
because we're
substantial.
working with- But
All right, well,
you can always reset it, I guess.
let's have a motion to postpone that easy vote.
You don't even,
Yes.
I'm just kind of the opposite.
Yeah. And other people have set theirs too, so maybe we can see and we'll call around to
Right,
someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
usually, as an example, I know usually.
All right, we will wait, we're gonna table this and move on to the next easy problem, the budget modification. Yeah. And so, we have, is that in the packets? Or you want to do the minutes, adoption of minutes?
let's do the adoption of the minutes, or I'll just do that now.
What was
Okay,
the budget mod, Gene? 'Cause I don't see it in.
I have a budget modification for $42 because I picked up 07 cents instead of 09 cents in calculating one salary in the highway department, and therefore I would be over budget by $41.60. I'm asking for a budget modification of $42.
So I'd like to make a motion to make a budget modification in the amount of $42, for which the budget lines will be provided by,
It's on there, it's,
appropriate, is it it's A960 will be decreased.
20.1.
Yep.
And reduction to contingency.
Yep, it would be A960 and then A1620.100 for $42.
Right.
Do I
And then
have a second?
Seconded.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved? Nice.
And then there were just a couple of modifications to the monthly purchase orders that department heads changed their minds after I gave them out. Changing, also in the reorg, Kevin Barry was appointed special prosecutor, and I needed to change that, that's on there. Just to change the name so I can issue the purchase orders monthly. Changing Kimlin Propane to Portville Gas for recreation.
There's an elimination. You have also Kathy, our senior coordinator, an elimination and also changes from the annual list with an eliminate of some insurance.
Yes, it was a duplication.
And then Edmonds and Ulster County, 1369.
Mhm.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the authorized monthly purchase orders approved by Jean Galucci on her memo dated January 12th, 2016.
Second?
So moved. Seconded, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved?
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
So let's do the adoption of the minutes. And I'm going to abstain for the police commission and the town board minutes of 12/17 since I was not here.
The Police Commission on 12/17, President Supervisor Zemet, Councilman Logan, Councilman Barry, Councilman Marty Irwin, Councilman Dan Torres. I apologize, this is the, yeah, it is. Yep. Chief Schneider.
So page 2 is the
Yep.
police commission meeting,
Yep.
and page
Yep.
3 is the town board meeting.
Yep, you should have to do them separate.
So I make a motion, we accept the 12/17/15 Police Commission meetings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved?
And then the 12/17/2015 Town Board meeting. President Supervisor Zemet, Councilman Logan, Councilman Barry, Councilman Marty, Councilman Torres.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes of 12/17/15 for the Town Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved? So I will make a motion to accept the town board minutes from the town board reorganization meeting, January 4th, 2016. Present Supervisor Patez, Councilman Dan Torres, Councilman Marty Irwin, Councilman Jeff Logan, Councilwoman Julie Seifert-Lilly.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Resolution for the Pilgrim Pipeline?
So the resolution is actually a letter that was drafted with the help of Councilwoman Jen Metzger in Rosendale. Do you want to read the letter? It's a little lengthy. It's in everyone's packet as well.
Oh, we just did that. That's what we just did.
Would someone else like to read it?
Sure.
I can.
You want to go, Julie? There you go. Yep, that's it.
So this is a letter to the Honorable Basil Segos, who's the acting commissioner of the New York State DEC in Albany. The town of New Paltz, as you may be aware, passed a resolution opposing Pilgrim pipelines last year due to the unacceptable impacts these pipelines would have on public health, safety, climate, drinking water, streams and rivers, economic well-being, and more. In keeping with the leadership role New Paltz is taking to defend our community against the proposed controversial Pilgrim pipelines, and in keeping with at least 28 other New York towns, villages, cities, and counties working together to protect our communities, we request that you resolve the dispute over co-lead agency by removing the Thruway Authority from its proposed shared lead agency role. Pursuant to New York State environmental seeker regulations, the town of New Paltz hereby submits our formal request to NYS DEC Commissioner Segos to resolve the dispute over the designation of lead agency for the Pilgrim Pipeline Project, 6 NYCRR Section 617.6B5. Two involved agencies, the New York State Thruway Authority and the DEC's Acting General Counsel, proposed on December 21st, 2015, that they serve as co-lead agency for the seeker review of the proposed Pilgrim Pipelines project. The City of Kingston, an involved agency, has now expressed its disagreement and refusal to consent this co-lead agency proposal by letter dated January 4th, 2016, from its mayor, Stephen Noble, to DEC Commissioner Segos and Robert Megna, the executive director of the Thruway Authority, and by letter dated January 7th, 2016, transmitting the resolution of its city council to the same effect to Commissioner Segos. In addition, the town of Rosendale, also an involved agency, has communicated to Commissioner Segos by a letter dated January 6, 2016, that it remains committed to DEC and not the Thruway Authority as the sole lead agency for the proposed Pilgrim Pipelines project. In addition, the town of New Paltz, with this letter, also opposes the Thruway Authority being included in the lead agency role and requests the DEC alone act as lead agency. The refusals of the City of Kingston and towns of Rosendale and New Paltz to consent to the Thruway Authority and DEC's December 21st, 2015 co-lead agency proposal mean that involved agencies are unable to agree on which lead agency which will be lead, and therefore any involved agency may request by certified mail that the DEC commissioner designate the lead agency for this project. They cite the same section that starts with 6 NYCRR, section 617.6. The town of New Paltz hereby makes that request. The town of New Paltz is an involved agency because portions of the Pilgrim Pipelines project are proposed to be constructed within the boundaries of the town, and local approvals are necessary before that construction could take place. The town is identified as an involved agency in Pilgrim Pipeline Holding, LLC's preliminary draft environmental impact statement dated August 2015, page EF ampersand. The New Paltz Town Board on November 19th, 2015 unanimously approved our offer to act as lead agency for the seeker review of the proposed Pilgrim pipelines. We sent that offer along with our stated opposition to NYSTA as lead agency to the DEC on November 19th, 2015. Information relevant to the Commissioner's application of the designation criteria that are enumerated enumerated in the seeker regulations at 6 NYCRR section 617.6 is presented below. Per the requirements of the seeker regulations, we are sending this request for the Commissioner to resolve the lead agency disagreement on the Pilgrim Pipelines project by designating the lead agency to all the involved agencies along the proposed Pilgrim Pipelines route in New York State, and are hereby informing them that all comments they may want to submit with respect to the Commissioner's designation must be submitted to him within 10 calendar days of their receipt of our request. The town of New Paltz, consistent with this resolution of November 19, 2015, remains firm in its belief that the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, and not the New York State Thruway Authority, NYSTA, is the only appropriate agency to serve as lead in the environmental review of the proposed Pilgrim Pipeline project. The town, moreover, has significant concerns about the proposal for co-lead agency and does not offer its consent for the following reasons. It has been a policy of the DEC to discourage co-lead agency of seeker processes, and that the town does not see how this case merits an exception. The NYSDEC website states that the purpose of having a lead agency is to coordinate the seeker process so that when an action is to be carried out, funded, or approved by 2 or more agencies, a single integrated environmental review is conducted. This lead agency is responsible for making key seeker determinations during the review process, a task made potentially much more difficult when 2 different agencies are granted joint discretionary authority. The DEC has the appropriate mission, jurisdiction, resources, and expertise to exercise a proper and thorough environmental review of this proposed project. It is in the opinion of the New Paltz Town Board that the criteria for lead agency determination strongly favor DEC. These criteria, in order of importance, include whether the impacts are of local, regional, or statewide significance, which agency has the broadest powers of investigation of the environmental impacts, and which agency has the best capacity to provide a thorough environmental assessment. Oh, this is long.
Do you want someone else to take over?
Sure, that was fun. Dan?
With regard to the first and second criteria, the proposed Pilgrim Pipeline project involves numerous potential impacts to resources of local, regional, and statewide concerns, many of which are within DEC's regulatory jurisdiction. These include the Hudson River and such important tributaries as the Rondout, Esopus, and Catskill Creeks and Wallkill River, the Ramapo River watershed, state-regulated wetlands, and Karst Aquifer Regional, a priority project designated in the New York State Open Space Conservation Plan, Harriman State Park, and other resources that the DEC is responsible for protecting, including possibly endangering species. The Karst Aquifer region, for example, provides critical habitats to the federally listed Indiana bat. In addition, a proposed project to construct the first crude oil pipeline in New York must be evaluated within the context of the state's broader climate goals and the New York State Energy Plan. Governor Cuomo has expressed his intention for New York to serve as a national leader in addressing climate change, and the DEC has statewide responsibilities for climate change mitigation. The Commissioner's policy mandates that DEC must consider climate change in all its actions, including permitting. In this letter on December 21st, 2015, declared NYSTA as co-lead agency. NYSTA Executive Director Robert Megna argues that the common regional jurisdiction of the 2 involved agencies are the basis for co-lead agency. We strongly disagree. NYSTA's jurisdiction, while crossing numerous municipal boundaries, is confined narrowly to use and occupancy of its own property. NYSTA has no jurisdiction over the many environmental and community resources that are potentially put at risk by this project in the event of a spill or other major project impact. The potential impacts of even a relatively small spill could have serious consequences for a community or communities throughout which the thruway runs. It is contaminants and aquifer for water body. By contrast, the New York State DEC's governmental powers of investigation and review of this project are broad, and as illustrated by Acting Deputy Commissioner and General Counsel Thomas Berkman in his letter of December 21st, 2015 to NYSTA Executive Director Robert Megna. A preliminary review of the application indicates there is the potential for significant adverse environmental impacts associated with the construction and operation of the pipeline, including but not limited to impacts to hundreds of acres of forests, regulated water bodies, and wetlands. The project, as proposed, would implicate the department's permitting authority pursuant to the Environmental Conservation Law and the Federal Clean Water Act. Both the first and second criteria for determining of lead agencies contained in the seeker regional strongly favor DEC. With regard to the third criteria, the relative expertise of involved agencies, the DEC clearly has the greater breadth and depth of expertise needed for this review. NYSTA knowledge of highway use and regulation and traffic impacts, while important, is highly limited within the context of the complex environmental review covering surface and groundwater soils, bedrock and geology, stormwater, air quality, habitat, and climate, among other areas of specialized knowledge and expertise. In past lead agencies disputed on environmental projects, the DEC, we're about a quarter of the way done now, that's a joke, Commissioners has pointed to the department's large staff of professionals with unique expertise in the many areas of potential environmental impacts as favoring DEC lead agency. The same holds true for this project. The rationales for NYSTA's lead agency status and for co-lead agencies are not compelling and could undermine confidence in the seeker review process. 29 villages, towns, cities, and counties, municipalities that are considered, quote, potentially involved agencies have already expressed their opposition to NYSTA serving as lead agency and their strong support for DEC serving in this capacity instead. We urge the Commissioner to designate the New York State DEC as lead agency to oversee the critical environmental review for this multi-jurisdiction project. Sincerely, the New Paltz Town Board. Also, it's important for us, of all the municipalities, to take this on as well, because we did say that we would be interested in being lead agency, so it has a different level of clout when we pass such a resolution. And obviously, a number of other municipalities have and will continue to do so. So with that, I'd like to make a motion, or that is my motion, rather.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Awesome. And then we'll send that out. So liquor license.
All right, so we have a waiver of liquor
That was
license.
for the reading of it, right? That was for the reading of it, right?
Yeah, just, we tried. No problem.
So
Can you read it again? If it's one
I make a motion, I make a motion to waive the 30-day hold on a liquor license renewal for Garvin's Rock and Rye LLC.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And make a motion for request, authorized prepay for a conference request, right, for Gene. And this is for $397 per person for meals and travel for Gene Galucci and Arlene Weber for the Finance Department to attend the Association of Towns annual meeting in New York City on February 15th and 16th.
Seconded?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Marty, you want to do demolition, right? And then I guess demolition for you, Marty. Did you want to lead that one?
Yes. Demolition of the former town hall. We're not looking for any data to be presented, are we?
No.
No, just a status update?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To date, we have engaged Douglas, Whitaker and Associates to help us in this effort. They have evaluated the air quality and other issues within the building, have made their recommendations. We've authorized them to go out to bid. They've gone out to bid. The bids have been approved. We approved them at our last meeting or the one before that. And we are now able to say that almost all of the materials that could have been cleaned and those that needed to have more remediation than that's been accomplished. We're about to shred documents and we're about to take a load of electronics for disposal up to Kingston. And our next step, which we've also authorized funds for, is for Douglas, Whitaker and Associates to go into the building and take samples of materials, floor samples, ceiling samples, check for mildew on structure within the building, especially in the basement. And when he has finished taking those samples, he will send them off for laboratory analysis. And when that is done, he'll be able to then know the scope of remediation that's necessary. He'll write a proposal that we will then be able to put out to request bids to execute that scope of work. And I can't tell you when that'll be done, but shortly.
Could I just ask, I think I remember hearing something about asbestos. They're also looking for that?
They're looking, Julie, to learn what is where there are hazardous issues, and asbestos is a very likely one to encounter. I'm told it could be encountered in a number of different materials, including the tiles that are on the floor, the mastic that's holding those tiles to the floor, or was holding the tiles to the floor where they're loose, that it may be in ceiling tiles. Its potential apparently could be in insulation. And I can't tell you what other materials he's taking samples of, but wherever he, as the expert, feels that there is the potential for a problem, he's going to take a sample and send it off.
And is the hazard they're concerned about just for the workers who are doing the destruction, or is it something they're going to, that could potentially be released into the air and other, people working and living around might be affected?
Both of those.
Yeah.
And consequently, assuming that they do indeed find that there's hazardous materials needing remediation, then we would expect to see guys walking around in white or yellow Tyvek suits with masks on and containment of the areas they're working in with negative ventilation to control anything they would disturb in the process of remediation.
And Julie, it actually goes beyond that too. It's a cradle to grave situation. So we were born of the building, so now we're responsible for the death of the building. So we need to be responsible with how we dispose of it. So it's not just us in this community, but we have to be ensured that when it leaves here, we know where it's going. And unfortunately, that's a big cost of the expense, because you do know where it's going. So the grave position is a big one, unfortunately, when it comes to remediation. Yes, Josh, we'll take
I
it.
just have a question. Would they also be responsible for checking the oil tanks that are connected to the building to make sure we don't have leakage that has to be dealt with also?
The answer is yes. We believe that there is one oil tank.
No.
And
Chris is indicating
They're interior oil tanks.
isn't there one outside that there's an issue?
They're the interior ones.
Oh, it is
Yeah.
being moved? So then it's the ones inside the building.
You'll see the ones in there that need to be disposed of.
going as of today.
They might
So
already
we
be.
didn't have any ground ones, so that's good.
I thought we might have, sorry, I was mistaken. Apparently there is not one in the
So-
ground.
No in-ground ones at all?
No.
Oh, good.
It looks, according to the magnetometer, it was removed.
Thanks, Marty. So the last two, we have some personal items that we need to discuss in executive session, and Jeff, you had a discussion about planning board?
Yeah, Julie and I were both at last night's planning board meeting, and an issue had come up with the attorneys and with the new planning board member, Mike Zeller. And it was the opinion to cut to the short, and then Julie might have more information than I do on it, that it's up to an individual to call for their recusal. So they have to make the decision based on their best decision. George Lithgow, who's the attorney to the planning board, and Joe Moriello have both apparently been notified by the attorney for the applicant for Trans Hudson that they feel that there is the need for a recusal. George Lithgow brought up a couple of attorney general opinions that also would lead one to believe that there may be a need for a recusal from the newest member, Michael Zeller, and it comes under, I think, and Julie, let me know if I'm wrong, it was should avoid circumstances which compromises their ability to make judgments solely in the public interest, even the appearance of impropriety should be avoided in order to maintain public confidence in government. I've been going to planning board meetings and for about 8 years, and never once have we ever had a applicant come before and request that there be a recusal.
Is that surely the case? There wasn't one in the past?
Requesting? No, we've had members recuse. I'm not aware of one, unless, are you aware of one? Please let me know. There's never been one requested that's been requested recusal. We've had members recuse. We've had Actually, in the past 6 months, we've had 2 members that have recused themselves.
Okay.
No, it's
I
okay.
don't know that if it matters, I guess, you know.
No, it does.
I guess I'd like to talk to George Lithgow and Joe Moriello again. I spoke to them yesterday before the planning board meeting, and we talked about this exact issue, and they didn't mention that they said they did not think there was a conflict of interest.
They actually, I wouldn't characterize what I heard George say as him recommending that Michael recuse himself. It wasn't.
No, his recommendation was what I just said, which is that he just simply quoted the Attorney General, which the Attorney General has passed down. There was 2 Attorney General decisions that both seem to point to the applicant has potentially an argument, which again, all of this is absolutely based on arguments with attorneys. Because what's going to happen is we are going to find ourselves in litigation. The applicant last night, the attorney for the applicant made it pretty clear that if this continues, we more than likely will face litigation. Whether that litigation is successful or not, that's what attorneys do. Unfortunately, this will be litigation that will be fully supported on the B side of the budget. So the town will be paying that. That is not something that we can't charge any of our applicants for it. That's not an applicant cost, that would be a town cost. Depending on Article 78, if they file it through that, or if they file just straight litigation on this, we would be responsible for those costs, which could be tremendous. So we do have 6 active members. We also do have an alternate member that can fill in. We can't make Mike recuse himself. My belief is, though, just based, because again, this is the first time I have seen this in 8 years of going to meetings, that I've ever seen someone make it very clear, and that would be the attorney from the applicant, that you will very likely be facing litigation. We can avoid this by as the town board, we could request that he should consider, we can't make him do it, but he should consider. So I'd like the town board to send a letter that he should consider recusing himself from the application.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Do I have a second?
For discussion purposes, I second it.
Discussion.
I think that it's a decision that Mike has to make, and I don't think that we need to provide any additional pressure for it. There was a meeting where that discussion came up. I watched the meeting. I thought Mike adequately discussed the topic. George also weighed in on an opinion. If we want to have a formal opinion on that, that's one thing, but I don't think it's the role of the town board to make that decision, so I will not support that.
And just so you know, actually, George would disagree with you on that, because his suggestion was that it be forwarded to the ethics board. The only way for it to go to the ethics board, because it has to go through the town board.
It has to be a municipal officer, so anyone could make that request.
So his suggestion was
So
to
if the chairman of the planning board would like to do it, he could do it.
And his suggestion was to have it go to the town board. That was George's suggestion last night, was to have it go through the town board, and suggested town board. I am fine with whatever everyone wants to do. I just want to make everyone aware that this most likely will result in litigation to this board, and it will be at a cost to the town. This will be a B-fund town board, so. I will go with the majority of the board, but I will let you know that this is something that we can avoid just by making the request, and then the individual, again, we are not requesting that he do it. We are simply making the request that he consider it, just as George stated last night and stated it to Mike, the chairman of our planning board. We cannot make you recuse yourself. It is simply a decision based on your own, and you can make that decision. But we are certainly putting ourselves in a situation here where there possibly could be litigation forthcoming. We do not make our decisions based on litigation. I fully agree to that, but this is a way you could avoid it and avoid the expense. But I will go with the majority.
I'm dubious that our passing a resolution will remove the likelihood of our getting sued. But
If and again, it wouldn't be a resolution, I'm asking that we send a letter to Mike, asking him to please consider all of the facts. If he comes out and says he is very confident that he is unbiased and that he has avoided all circumstances which would compromise his ability, then I am fine with that too, and then it will be fought out within litigation, and that litigation, just so everyone knows, does have a price tag on it.
Mike already
And that
did
price
that at
tag
the
is not
meeting.
going to be a cheap price tag.
Do you think, Jeff, that our discussion, which is public, and maybe Michael is watching this, would be sufficient to let him know that there are some folks that would like him to consider that, without us having to send a formal letter?
I made the motion for a formal letter, but absolutely, because it was a public discussion last night. It was not a executive session discussion.
okay. I
So
didn't
last night,
watch
this was
it.
a, no, last night, this was a fully, I was,
I mean, I'd like to note for the record that when we, even before we appointed Michael Zeeler to the planning board, we asked him that exact question, whether he could be impartial and base his decision on the facts, and he assured us that was the case.
And he said that last night as well.
And he said he wouldn't have even accepted the position if he could not be completely impartial.
And
So
I
I am not going to second guess what he has already told me.
And I totally agree with you, Neil, just that what is, again, this is what attorneys do, and I have watched it up close and personal, both through litigation that we have gone through in previous boards and planning boards. The argument was made by the applicant's attorney that there were letters signed and multiple public statements made that would be contrary to that. And again, I don't support the side of the attorney, and I'm not supporting Mike. I am just simply stating that I believe we are leaving ourselves open to litigation for him to continue on it, and we could avoid as a community this litigation and still have a active 7-member board if he would recuse himself from this. The requirement for him to sit on that is not necessary because we don't have a short board. We have 6 members. If he recuses himself, we do have an active alternate who has the ability to serve in that role. So we would be back to 7 full members. But again, I will go with the majority of the, I won't go, what the majority of the board decides to do, we will follow.
Yeah, I thought that Mike adequately answered a number of those questions last night. I was not at the meeting. I did watch a good chunk of it today on YouTube as well. Us passing a resolution doesn't negate us from any legal actions. It's obvious we've had the conversation. I'm sure Mike will find out about it. I'll certainly let him know as well that it was something that was discussed. Beyond that, I don't think that we need to take any other action, but that's just my opinion.
You know, I was at the meeting and I listened very carefully, and before we vote on it, I almost feel like we all should watch the tape, because if we're gonna vote on it, just because, there was no indication from Mike Calmano especially, and he's the,
Yeah.
he would be the one who would potentially, just have an opinion, I guess. There was no indication that he felt like the attorney for the Trans Hudson project had a point, I mean, he, just to be clear, and nor did it seem like George was overly concerned. Another thing, I mean, I would like to, you said you met with George and Mike Calamano before the meeting, before the planning board meeting, discussed this very thing, and sorry, what did you say?
I met with George, and we talked about this, and he said exactly what Jeff said, that it ultimately is up to the individual to make the decision about whether they have they can make an impartial decision, and that we have to trust that person. And I assured George that we would not have appointed Michael if he could not make an impartial decision. And he said, then that's fine. And that we don't get to second guess him on his own statement of whether or not he can be impartial.
I also think that we need to be careful as a board when we decide to pass letters for our volunteers. I mean, I know we had another conversation about the ENCB and the CVS one that we never actually concluded, but I think we also want to be careful about what kind of messages we're sending our volunteers to.
Actually, the ENCB, we did conclude, and the ENCB went back and reissued a new letter to
We never did that.
the last
No.
action that Rhett Weirs took before he left was to issue a new letter from the ENCB. You can say no, but we have the letter. I could pull it up.
They're still waiting for you to send over the information on the draft letter that they wanted. It's not relevant to the topic.
well,
at
no,
hand.
it's
Josh has a comment too.
Well,
so-
it actually is relevant because they did, the ENCB sent over a new letter. The draft letter from which Jim Littlefoot requested actually is on the trans holding. We're talking about the letter that we did request, that we made mention to, had to do with the Mohonk Preserve property and the Smiley Brothers property, and that they did reissue right before.
We're not talking, I'm talking about the CVS.
And that's a different project. Okay, that, no.
That's- yeah.
Yep, no.
Yeah.
Could
Josh.
just
Oh,
before, do you mind if I
sorry.
just, so we can keep the momentum of the board's discussion? If we're concerned about litigation, you know, from what I've heard, they're very likely to be suing, you know, I mean, I shouldn't say very likely, but they're, you know, they might be, and we don't know, you know, but,
You never know.
yeah,
That's-
but it might be in a list of things that they're going to sue about. You know, he's threatened action, just, you know, he's threatened action before, you know, so, and I didn't think he came out and threatened action. He just was, I really don't think he did that. So regardless, you know, I don't think it would be an individual, you know, the suit would be sort of, it would be in what they're suing about, you know, because, you know, I don't think they would just pick that one thing, but you know what I mean? I think it would be
Yes and no, again,
if
that's what it.
someone gave me some advisement today that
I would
very
have to
much
get more,
might be-
I would have to speak to all of our attorneys, as we all would.
Yeah.
But yes and no, and again, just watching litigation up close and seeing it and being involved in it, and even unfortunately coming onto the board and the board being sued, and each of us as individuals being sued, and this goes all the way back to the wine property, which is up in the corner of Mountain Rest in Butterville. We were actually named not only as a board, we were named as individuals along with the planning board and planning board individuals. This litigation, Charlie made it clear, that was a very clear indication last night when you have an attorney list specific dates and read specific passages from letters and read specific verbatim from public statements. That is and his statement that this is going, I need this on the record, Mike, and Mike agreeing this needs to go on the record. The reason being that is the grounds for litigation. Some of it more simple, some of it more complex. That could be a process litigation, which is an Article 78, which is an easy, quick one. So the longer ones are going to be much more different, but yes.
Let's have Josh talk and try to move this on.
Okay, because I was going to say, even the case that he had mentioned, there was somebody who was a member of the board, but not at the time that litigation happened, but they were a legislator, and they didn't vote on the action that was taken, but they still were named in a lawsuit. We've always been careful over the years. Again, we always say, appearances mean a lot. I have no doubt that Michael believes that he can be fair, but the appearance is not, it's not going to be up to him in making a judgment if we go into litigation. It's not going to be up to you guys that you believe it. It's going to be what's going to happen if we do go to litigation and if it goes to a trial or lawyers and how it's going to go. And so normally we've always tried, even when we were fighting the Wilmerite thing, when we fought Walmart, the board has to hold up at a certain point and show no prejudice prior to a decision. You have to be very careful because that's one of the things, if they have nothing else to go for, they will go after the individual. And if there's evidence, they'll drag you out. And just having to go into litigation costs taxpayers money. So if you have that many members of the board, I mean, personally, I would have put Michael on after that particular issue because of things that were said in the past, to protect the board and the taxpayers. And you have to think about what's going to be in the best interest of the town, not to protect someone because you like them or because you think they're fair or they're honest, and whether they are or not doesn't matter. But you have to do whatever you can to protect it. And it's not like it's a board that needs his vote. In some ways, it's always better to put somebody who's had no prior say in anything if you're putting him on a board, or leave the seat empty till after that issue comes up. But right now, I mean, having seen stuff that's happened before in this town, and you know, maybe Jeff or other people can show you other cases, and we should talk to our lawyers, obviously, in more depth, and make a decision.
Yeah, I just
Be
think,
very specific in what
I appreciate that, but none of that's addressed in the action before the board. You know, sending a letter, I mean, doesn't absolve us of any of that.
So, and again, since Julie was there, I mean, ultimately, the decision on recusal, must be made by the board member who is informed of all the facts and the circumstances at issue. And it appears as though this board does not have interest in that, and the board is willing to add the potential of litigation on another portion of this application.
It wouldn't change if we approved your resolution either. Your letter idea.
It's
Doesn't-
possible. Again, it does, again, as I said,
Anything's
ultimately.
possible, but
Yeah, exactly. And
If-
litigation is always a gamble by both the attorneys. So ultimately, a decision or an recusal must be made by the board member. So I will just leave it at that.
Well,
Call the
I'm
question.
not willing to throw Michael under the bus for the illusion of our not getting sued, because I don't think it's going to matter. I trust that Michael's going to do the right thing. That's my comment.
I'd like to call the question.
Uh,
All those in favor?
All those in favor of Jeff's resolution to send a letter? Was that right?
Yep, sure. Yeah, send a letter to the board. Yep, aye.
All those opposed?
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So moved. All
I
right.
believe we've gone through all of the approved items on the agenda. I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
No.
We have executive
The
session.
executive session. No,
Oh,
there's not, but-
The only executive session item was to interview.
We have an additional personnel item.
It's not on the agenda. What is it, please?
It's a personnel item.
Well, executive session you don't put on the agenda, actually,
Yeah.
but you just, so you name it at the table.
Put the item on.
Right, but so he can name it at the table, so we just need to know what it is. So,
It's to do with the employment of a specific individual. So I'll make that motion.
second,
All in favor? So moved.
aye. We'll be right back.
Do we have to take action to come out of executive
Yeah,
session?
make a motion to come out of executive session?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to dismiss Kevin Barry from the position of Special Prosecutor of the Town of New Paltz.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, the reasons why?
The reasons why are based on the executive session conversation. It's also an at-will position, so we don't have to give a reason as well.
Okay.
But the
So-
reason that was given would be under executive session material, and we couldn't have it in this form.
Well, you can discuss anything you want in executive session in public, so one of the reasons.
I disagree with that interpretation.
Okay, congratulations. So
You can
one
call
of,
Robert Friedman and ask him.
so one of the discussions is that the pending possible ethics violations would be a reason, also that this was a decision that was made maybe too quickly. And I'm absolutely amazed at the audacity, I apologize, of some of these board members. I will go to, we just had a discussion 15 minutes ago for which we will be pending a ethics violation, and the majority of this board sat here and said that has no bearing on it, but yet now you're going to say potential ethics complaint has bearings on this.
I just like to say,
Also, I'm still speaking, Neil. Also, that the decision of that member that was named to the planning board was a decision that I had no knowledge of. We received a resignation from a member. I never received any application, but when I was able to get a copy of the application, it was received within hours of the resignation. So it was obviously known about by members of this board, and it was a decision made, already made ahead of time. and now you're saying that this was a quick decision. Also, I did not know the naming of Kevin Barry until the evening of our very org meeting, and also apparently there were discussions. Also, apparently there were discussions with attorneys on the discussion we just had about 15 minutes ago with attorneys on both sides, which I did not even know. I just found out when I was sitting at a planning board meeting that there was a meeting with attorneys and with the supervisor. I just find out now there's other, which we have no notes or any knowledge of, and we don't know what any of those discussions came out with. And now I'm finding out now too that, Neil, you had discussions with attorneys on this very matter, but yet we've gotten no material on that. So, I really truly believe this should not be a decision we should sit here and make now. There's a lot of information that has been discussed, but I don't see where this new era of open government is coming out in the open. I feel like there's all this discussions that have been going on, and yet the majority of this board has not been privy to it. And that makes it very, very difficult to make a decision. And if you're saying that these decisions were made too quickly, well, then shame on you, because you didn't bring in the fold of the board. If you bring it out and you make them public, then we can all make these decisions. So I'm very disturbed by coming in and saying, I'm gonna have this great open government, but yet so far, all I've witnessed in 2 meetings is probably the finest examples of closed government. So congratulations.
So I just wanted to remind you as well that the last appointment we made to the planning board, we did not receive the application. I made the exact same argument that you made. You said it didn't matter, and in this example, you actually did receive an application. We discussed it, and then we also interviewed the applicant, of which we did not interview the previous applicant, which you also said did not matter. You then went and made the argument that we had to appoint the person because of the projects before us. And when I made that same argument, because they're the same projects before us for the next applicant, you said it did not matter. So I'm sorry that that's how you recall that situation. And I also think that you potentially violated some of our executive session material as well. But we did have a conversation. Your answers were we gave you answers to a number of your questions. We can't go much further into it because I think that's executive session material, and I think it's inappropriate what you chose to do.
I am not able to vote on this because I've not been given an opportunity to hear from our council.
He did send us a letter. Did you receive that, Marty?
From
An
Joe
email?
Moriello?
Oh, our council.
Yeah,
Sorry.
from Joe.
I thought-
I would like to hear directly from
So,
Joe Cohn.
you're more than welcome to it, and if I didn't convey Joe's Moriello's response was that this is an at-will position, right? So we, as a board, have the right to do as we so choose. So if there's any more discussion?
I'd also just like to note that we discussed that going forward, and we said it at the reorganizational meeting, we're going to review all appointments. These appointments will also be reviewed. And should any person in the community at all choose to apply, they can do that, and we can review that as well.
Will we be doing
This
that
was
soon?
this was the only appointment to the at-will positions that was changed at the reorg meeting. I think that was a mistake. We should, if we're going to reappoint people, we mentioned at the reorg meeting that we're going to do it in a more open and transparent process, and people will have an opportunity to see the process throughout the entire process. My goal for this is to go back to the system that we had before, and when we review all of these appointments, they will all be done at the same time, like Marty requested, and people will have access to look at the resumes and ask questions.
Weren't you the same guys who made this appointment? Wasn't it this board that made
It was,
this board.
and now we're changing it,
It was you guys who did it. I was
Yes.
surprised when you did it, you did it, but.
and now we're changing that.
but
It was
are there new
tasty.
charges?
There are circumstances that have come to light as well that are making us reevaluate the situation.
That we discussed in the executive session that
Right,
it's
I
unfair to
understand
talk
that.
about.
That's
So,
right. I'm just surprised because it was this board, it's not like previous.
it was this board, and so that's why, if it was a previous board, I would be more reticent to do it. But we made the appointment. I think we were wrong to be so rash, and now we're trying to correct that mistake. That's all we're trying to do. We're going to go back to the way it was before, and in the future, if we decide to make changes like that, we'll do it in a more careful and deliberative manner.
What you describe as rash, I would describe as if you had included in all of the board members, we could have had a much more open and honest discussion. But instead, you had board members arriving at the meeting that evening with no knowledge of any of that appointment, and assuming that it was a good appointment. And in the case of Kevin Berry, having served, Dan, someday you'll grow up and you'll actually understand what it is to serve in the community.
Do I have
so
a-
what
do I have a
and
second?
Not just serve for your own pleasure, but to actually serve the members
It
of
would
the
be nice
community.
if we could just be on topic, Jeff.
But that is on topic, Dan, absolutely.
So
is
I
on
would
topic.
like to,
So what I would say, though, then, Neil, is, I would side with what Marty is saying here, and which is, I would like to hear from council, and I think we need more information before we can make a responsible vote on this.
Well, unfortunately, that appointment also mentioned specifically your support for them for that position to all of us. So sorry that happened.
all
that
right,
way.
so the motion.
It's been seconded.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions?
Opposed because of not having had an opportunity to speak to council and needing to vote one way or the other.
And I think, this is a new board, and going forward, we will look at how we run our meetings. We'll make them better. Because I agree, it would be really horrible to have to sit on a town board and not get information for a long duration of time. And I can imagine how upsetting that would be and how it would be hard to
Well, I'm
do.
not upset at all. I just simply think that decisions are being
I didn't
based
say
on.
you were, I just said I could imagine how that would be a scenario that would be pretty rough to deal with. So I'm taking what you said, and I agree. Let's try to do better at it. Thank you,
I do
Jeff.
think we actually thought that Jeff understood, I mean, it's just taking one from what I heard here, that it was, we thought that was something that actually was told by Kevin that Jeff supported it. Is that right?
I don't think we need to go into the details of it, but yeah, that appears to be the consensus feeling.
So I make a motion.
Well, it
I
is
may have
actually.
misunderstood.
Well, Julie, and again, that is not, it was never discussed with me that the job.
we're not in-
The job would be changing.
We're not in the discussion anymore. I
Well,
make
no,
a
we can
motion.
be in discussion all we want. We can discuss as long as we want. We're an open board. It was absolutely.
I think we've already voted on this. and
Yeah.
I believe the vote was 3 in favor and 2 opposed.
So I make a motion to reappoint Robert Zecchio and Kevin Bryant to their previous positions as special prosecutors to the town. Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Nay.
Abstain.
So moved. I make a motion to call adjournment of this meeting.
I'll second that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Dan, I would say this to you, regardless of